Supreme Magus, Chapter 63. The Importance of Status. Professor Vester was true to his word. He brought them to the hospital intensive care unit and asked them in turns to diagnose the nature of the patient's condition. Vester would take notes about their answers to confront them with the charts. He wasn't allowed to give them scores on their first day, but he didn't hesitate to harshly reprimand those who missed any detail, humiliating them in front of the class. Because of the nature of the task, the class was split into groups. Right after each one of them had examined their first patients, the following rounds allowed Vester to further split the groups based on the student's degree of expertise. In the first group belonged those who had chosen the Master Healer specialization, lured by the prestige the title implied. Yet they lacked either way experience in the healer practice or the resources to have a proper tutor to make up for it. Vester was immediately able to spot them, since they were only able to use Venire Ratu, the ubiquitous Tier 1 diagnostic spell. In the second group, instead, there were Snobface, Edgy Face, Young Miss, Uriel, and all those who had at their disposal a diagnostic personal spell or even more than one. Much to his surprise, the Archmage's son, Uriel, was equaled in talent and precision by the Snobface girl, while the Young Miss and the Edgy Face kid ran circle around even them, standing out like hawks among crows. Especially Edgy Face had proven to be capable of finding minor details that even the Academy's master healer had missed in their diagnosis. It was nothing big, but he was also able to suggest ways to improve their prognosis, hastening the healing process. Master hadn't arrived at his age and social standing by letting something insignificant like his personal prejudice or preference stand in the way of his best interests. Commoners or not, those two smell of success. Even that snotty-faced brat is damn good if she is able to hold her ground against a pure blood like Uriel. I have always been proud of my knack for recognizing true talent. I don't care if the spotlight I'm under is mine or someone else, as long as I get to maintain my status and position, anything goes. I have to get their good graces before anyone else. After they get famous, I would be a nobody. Right now, I'm all their world. Time to jot down some names and remember them properly. I'd say we have some winners. While talking to the top 4 students, Vaster's voice had lost any trace of sarcasm and disrespect. He spoke with a soft and amiable tone, like a grandfather talking to his beloved grandkids. Would you mind to introduce yourself properly to the class? It would motivate them to work hard enough to compete with you all, if they are delusional enough to believe they even have a sliver of hope. Of course, he inwardly sneered. In his mind, Vester had already separated the cream from the milk from the piss. He was merely being polite. My name is Freya Solivar. Like everyone else, she was wearing pants, not a skirt, so while doing the courtesy, she held up her robe instead. My mother is Duchess Solivar. I hope you have heard about her. Vaster's eyebrow rose while he was racking his brain, trying to remember. Ah, yes, I heard only praises about how she managed to stop that terrible flood last year. Such an ingenious woman was bound to have a gifted daughter. I'm sure you have a bright future ahead of you. He skipped Uriel. He doubted that even those boneheads could have missed his flaunting status of Archmaid Darius' heir. After making a few gestures to one of his attendants, Vaster stood in front of the petite girl, smiling kindly. My name is Quilla from Serea. I'm 12 years old. Quilla didn't know etiquette or how to introduce herself, so she just made a deep bow while sharing what she deemed to be relevant. So young, yet so skilled. You are truly a diamond in the rough. Vaster received from his attendant a bottle containing a purple liquid that he gifted to Quilla with a small bow. Here, this is one of the best tonics our master alchemist can prepare. Drink a glass of it every night before going to bed, and you'll grow up like a mushroom. I'm sure you'll become a beautiful lady. Quilla took his bait, line and sinker, blushing up from her ears for the compliments. She had never received anything so precious in her life, so she held the bottle like a baby, stuttering her thanks. Contrary to his expectation, Edgy Face had taken out his notebook, literally jotting down what the others had said. He made the brilliant move of using water magic to write instead of a pen. Perfect silent water magic. My God never fails me. Vaster smiled widened. He was sure to have struck a gold mine. Showing respect to your competitors is always a smart move, young man. Following the etiquette books he had stored in Soluspedia, Lit took a step back in sign of respect towards Professor Vaster before performing a deep bow. I always write down everything that's significant to make it easier to remember. The three of them are the only ones worthy of attention, after all. After the poor figure he did during Professor Nallar's class, Lit was brimming with confidence. Thanks to invigoration, he was certain to have performed better than anyone else. For the first time in his life, he didn't feel any more like a frog in a well. He had finally found something he has actually was the best at. After how his classmates had treated him, Lee didn't care to keep up appearances. He was already a pariah, someone they threw trash at without a care. He had nothing to lose anymore. Lit would treat them just like they did to him, with spite and showing no mercy. My name is Lit from Lutia. I'm 12 years old too. 12 years? Lit? Lit was already taller than him, so Vaster had failed to recognize him. I've heard so much around you. Heck, everyone here has. Guys, he was allegedly talking to the whole class, but he looked only at other three to make sure they paid attention. Lit, here, is the one that cracked the so-called curse, a unique poison that had eluded even the best of us. Have you heard about it? Freya and Uriel nodded, while Kula and many others shook their heads. Vaster's heart bled at the idea of wasting so much paper, but he couldn't make a single copy of the report just for Quilla. The other students would have complained about such blatant discrimination. While his attendant was handing the reports, he kept tending at his gold mine. A 12-year-old hexcaster, with great talent in light magic to boot. That's how he got his admission. Between his build, height, and everything they had learned in the last minute, Lee's classmates were looking at him with new eyes, even a hint of respect. Freya and Uriel regretted what they had done earlier. If instead of throwing trash at him, they had managed to get on his good books, maybe he could have taught them so much. For a second, Freya thought that she was the only one to have another chance. After what happened earlier, Lit was clearly sensitive to feminine charms, and she was quite pretty. But when she smiled at him, opening her mouth to start chatting, he sent her a cold glare that sent shivers down her spine. His eyes were empty, like those of a predator that's about to rip its prey apart. Arya swallowed back her hopes and pretended that nothing had happened. Lit, my boy, you should smile more. If you keep glaring at everyone, how could they notice how handsome you are? Vaster patted his shoulder. Me? Handsome? What a bootlicker. How can he even think I didn't notice his 180 degrees turn of attitude? Lit thought. I think he knows you did. He just hopes you don't care, Solus replied. As for the handsome, yeah, you are not at Trask level, but maybe if you drop the teenage serial killer look. Quilla too was regretting what had happened earlier, but for the entirely different reasons. She didn't do anything against Lid, but she hadn't helped him either. Like the others, she had always kept her distance. In hindsight, she maybe would have helped another commoner on her own age, but he was tall and scary, so she mistook him for a noble, not to mention that her class scared her even more. Well, enough with the rounds. I already got what I need. Let me show you all where the real magic happens. Vaster walked them through a few corridors and into another ward. The plaque above the door was self-explanatory. Missing limbs. As you should have realized, this is where we move the patients that have lost one or more limbs. After stabilizing their condition, we can actually regrow them from scratch, but it's a long and difficult spell. Follow me. The ward was almost empty. Only a couple of beds were occupied. Unlike the ICU, it was filled with flowers and magic paintings, making the atmosphere soothing and relaxing. The walls were magic frescoes depicting sunny woods, so vivid to see through. Professor Vaster brought them around the bed of a 20-something-years-old blonde guy that was missing his right arm. Only a small stump remained. Students, allow me to introduce you Captain Zaran. He lost his arm in a skirmish against the Gorgon Empire while defending the northern borders of your kingdom. The man was clearly embarrassed. Unlike most of the ICU patients, he was awake and clear-headed. Despite they were politely greeting him, he couldn't help but feel like a horse at the market, ready to be probed and examined mercilessly. Suddenly, the ward's double doors opened again. The man that walked in drew the attention of all the staff and almost all students. From their gasp of admiration, Lid could deduce that he was either Professor Mart or Manoir. Bright blue Manacor, Solus pointed out, my money on him being Mart. Not accepting the bet, Lid replied. Professor Mart, so nice to see you, Vaster said with a smile from ear to ear. I was just about to explain the fourth-year students the regrowth procedure. Do you want to do the honors?